Welcome to the first episode of Two Girls, One Flat. We're two girls and this, it looks like a flat. I'm Jess.
And I'm Catherine. We're here at the National Film and Television School live, bringing you arts, culture and some music right into the comfort of your phone or computer.
This, what you're watching, is happening now, live. And everything you see is happening at this very moment at 5:02 and will never be seen again.
Jess, I think our audience knows what live means.
Do they though? I mean, everyone's always streaming this, streaming that. This is live.
Yes. On today's Two Girls, One Flat, we're bringing you one of the hottest, youngest bands in the UK, Maggie Cassidy, presenting two new songs fresh from the recording studio. We'll be chatting to wildlife filmmaker Chris Orr, who will be demonstrating...
He's going to show us how to make mushrooms.
And we'll be meeting the man in charge of creating soundscapes to some of our favourite movies, sound wizard Eddie Joseph.
Eddie gave Harry Potter's wand its very first zaps and whooshes.
So do stick around, sit back, open up a beer, throw on a face mask, make a cup of tea, stretch out...
Catherine, I think our audience knows how to watch telly. But first up, the news.
Said you're running out of time, what do you...
Relax. We know the news is pretty shit these days, but this is an arts, music and culture show, so everything will be fine.
Blue Planet 2 is this year's most watched British TV show. The first episode of BBC's latest David Attenborough series was seen by 14.1 million, beating Strictly and A Struggling X Factor. The consolidated audience made it not only the most watched programme of the year, but the third most watched of the past 5 years, beating the 2014 World Cup and last year's British Bake Off final.
From February the 2nd, 2018 until January the 6th, 2019, the Museum of London will exhibit Votes for Women, a show celebrating the lives of women who fought a 50-year campaign for the vote. Many of the thought-provoking photographs show emaciated women having to be supported as they stagger into the yard, haggard from hunger and the brutal force-feeding which shocked the public and helped turn the tide of popular opinion.
In a recent Los Angeles auction, a bidding war resulted in a $700,000 price tag for a guitar belonging to Prince, the highest price ever paid for a piece of memorabilia belonging to the late icon. The guitar was one of several items up for sale by rock legends, including Michael Jackson's black and white rhinestone glove, which sold for $102,000, and the handwritten lyrics to David Bowie's Starman, which sold for $81,000.
Quentin Tarantino is moving forward with his 9th feature film, which will mark the first time the director does not work with his longtime collaborator, Harvey Weinstein. Tarantino is in search of a new studio home and is hoping to start production on the movie in the summer of 2018.
And now, joining us in our basement with their new single, Leaking Love, it's Maggie Cassidy.
I tried every way I know, searched every scene I've owned, still can't beat it, depression won't leave. I flip to the scripts I wrote, each side of the fence still grows, and I think of fading, ashes and fear. Then you came up, been thrashing since against the strongest reasons to coexist. And I know what this heart is, and I know what this part is, and I move to reach you. All I can do is move. I try to hold it, but this darkness is me. You was alone before it started. You was alone before my mood set in. Can't have you blame yourself, my dog. It's just me. Don't fit in, forget it. And if it's all the same to you, in time I might have made it through, but I can't take this haunted feeling. I can't stop this drinking scene. It's not the same with you. You give me more than flesh and truth, and in that heart I know there's room for two. I try to hold it, yeah. I tried to control it, but this darkness is me. You was just me, don't fit in, forget it. You know it's hard for you, hard to stop, but it feels. You know it's understand this won't kill my ego and be done a new me, don't fit in, don't change, yeah. On, can you hold on while I'm making love? Can you hold on to me? Can I be loved? Can you hold on to feed this feeling? Have I earned your trust? 'Cause I don't know, forever lost in this feeling, please no more. You know it's hard, hard to stop, but it feels. You know it's understand this won't kill my ego and be done a new me. You fit in and change, yeah. I think it's not the end, I can see it.
That was great. Maggie Cassidy.
So you boys have just been doing some recording in a barn. Why a barn?
We thought it was the best way to kind of get away, no distractions, no Wi-Fi, if you can believe it, kind of sleep underfloor in a basement, and it just worked pretty well for us. So hopefully you can judge the quality of the music is good enough for that. So thank you, Pete Miles.
Well, it sounded very good to me. Well, we can't wait to see you again later. So make yourselves comfortable and we'll see you then.
Thanks.
Now, cooking can be tough. Sometimes grabbing takeaway on your way home can mean an extra hour of sleep. Plus, every day someone says something different, like, oh, don't eat fat. Oh no, do eat fat, but don't eat carbs. Oh, just kidding, only carbs, but no fat. And then you can only drink water on Wednesdays and Sundays. And then sometimes
How can anyone keep up? That's why Julieta Lucca is here with us to share her review of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, Mastering the Elements of Good Cooking, a new book by Samin Nosrat. Hello!
Hey! Come and take a seat on our sofa.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
To see you too. How are you?
Very well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. So I've got a really important question for you to start this off. How much chocolate is too much chocolate? Because it's a fat and I'm told it's not very good for you.
Well, you know, chocolate is made up of many things. If you look at the raw cacao itself, that is not actually bad for you. The problem is when you start adding, you know, preservatives and sugars and all the kind of things that you don't really want to be eating. So yeah, chocolate is good for you, but the right one.
That's great news for me. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're sort of a food stylist, food writer?
Yes, I'm a food writer, recipe developer, food stylist and photographer. And I'm the food editor at julietoskaryanki.com. And we have a column there called Tried and Tested, where we try and test cookbooks.
So can you tell me about this book that you've brought in
That's
today
right,
for
yeah.
us?
So this book, Salt, Fat, Acid and Heat, is a new book by Samin Nosrat, who's a chef, teacher and cookbook writer. And this is basically her first book ever. It took years for her to create this. So it is kind of a Bible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And can you tell us the principles? Because obviously you've got those 4 pillars on the front there.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about
Yeah,
that.
so for her, these are the basic pillars for good cooking. She goes into detail into, you know, salt, the different types of salt, different types of fat, how to use those different types of fat, and then what acid does, you know, with different foods, and heat, essentially how it applies whenever you're cooking something.
So fat isn't necessarily bad for us.
No, it's not at all, actually. We really need fat in order to live our lives. It's energy. But the problem is when you consume too much of it, or too much of a bad fat. And for example, I tend to say margarine. That's man-made. It's not really real. It doesn't have any nutrients, as opposed to butter. Butter's it's not good for you if you eat a whole stick, but it's natural. So that's the main difference.
And do you think cookbooks like this are maybe the way forward rather than straightforward recipes?
Definitely. I mean, this takes you on a whole journey. You can understand things, how they work, from the ground up. Even if if you're following a recipe, great, you learn how to cook something, but you don't really understand what goes into each step. So this book does a great job at doing that.
And are there recipes in that book?
Yes,
also?
there are.
Can you tell me your favourite?
Oh,
if you had to pick,
Well,
if I said, okay, let's make some food in the flat
it's not
now.
really a recipe, it's more of an experiment. One thing I like is that she tells the reader to pick a chicken, open it up, and then salt half of it 3 days in advance. So 3 days before it's been cooked. And then salt the other half, literally, right before cooking. You cook it, and then you taste how amazing that other half that has been salted 3 days before is. That's because the salt had a chance to reach the inner part of the chicken. So I think that's potentially the most amazing part.
So what are you working on now? What's next for you? Maybe a cookbook of your own?
I don't know. I mean, I like to, but I'm definitely not ready. There's a lot I have to learn, including this. There's so much information in here that I have to get to grips with. But yeah, I would love to do a cookbook. It's definitely something that everyone nowadays has a cookbook.
Yeah.
So it's quite tricky to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
No,
and hopefully
thank
I
you.
can be able to keep an eye out for your very own cookbook. You can find out more about Julieta at www.julietaluca.com or follow her journey at julietoscaryankee.com. Now, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is we're going to commercials. The good news is all our commercials are made by students here at the NFTS, so they'll be cool.
Stick around, we'll be right back.
My father's first car.
The public library.
In my grandmother's bathroom. That's it. Almost!
Pearson Education. We all start somewhere.
The house is warm. Oh! Sweet dreams.
Happy Valentine's Day! Lucy?
Welcome back to Two Girls, One Flat. Nowadays, there are thousands of film festivals all over the world. Usually, filmmakers have to pay up to £60 to submit their short films, and many can wait months for a simple rejection email.
Last week, we had the pleasure of checking out the Sunday Shorts Film Festival in London, a free monthly film festival looking to change all of that.
Well, we did think about making it an online festival to begin with, mainly out of laziness.
With a lot of the big festivals, you get in and you sort of get the laurels on the film poster, and it all looks very impressive, but there isn't a great deal of communication. And I think one of the advantages of a festival like this is that they offer you feedback on your script. You can network. It's a great opportunity to meet local filmmakers.
We love the fact that we get to meet the filmmakers, and it's a totally different experience watching a film on a screen in an audience. When you think of film festivals, you expect cinemas and you expect to go into all their screens like in picture houses. But there's something unique about this one. It's very relaxed, and sometimes people will just come to the pub, they'll hear the film going on and they'll see that it's free and they'll just wander in.
So the significance for me is that it's local. It's very much like a community feel, and it's not like you're going into Central or you're going very far away. It's like you ride your bike here and you chill with some people, and it's very homey like that, not too showy sort of thing.
I always think of this as sort of like a taster festival, and because it's like a really chilled event, there's no pressure or anything, so it's just a nice way to sort of break your short film out.
Now, filmmaking isn't just restricted to humans on screen. Some filmmakers turn the cameras onto the world around us, choosing to focus on the inner workings of our natural world. Legendary broadcaster Sir David Attenborough continues to inspire millions of creatives to follow in his footsteps.
So slowly. But if time is compressed and you shift perspective to the plant's point of view, their world comes spectacularly to life. The events in this woodland can build to a view of half a year in less than a minute.
One such filmmaker is Chris Orr, who's come by to show us those cool scenes of plants growing, just how they are shot. So, we've just seen the piece from Life of Plants.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you would go about shooting something like that.
Well, it's a lot more complicated than it at first looks. A sequence which takes less than a minute like that actually took them 2 years to shoot.
Oh, wow.
And it needs to be in a very controlled environment. Shooting outside, especially in time-lapse, you can't control the weather, so it'll just go wrong. That's kind of the golden rule. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. So we tend to mimic what we would find outside within a set so that we have more control over the lighting and how things grow and the placement of things.
So that video we just saw, was that shot outside?
So the first part of it is shot outside. They did one run through, and then they used blue screen to actually have all the plants growing up in time, so when the camera comes by again, yeah, it's all in a nice sequence.
Sneaky. So you do these videos yourself. So obviously you create something like this. So is this something that you then set up yourself? Where do you do that?
More often than not, just in my own bedroom.
Oh,
so
that's brilliant.
Yeah. Does mean I tend to get a few insects and kind of things crawling around my house. Not great. But,
No.
But yeah, they're very easy to set up. So this is an example of a completed one. You can't have it too organised because it has to look like a natural environment where we have to kind of actually show how things would be in nature. So, for an example, all the best things in life are mucky. So,
amazing. So do you just find this outside wherever you go?
yeah, I mean, you've got to be responsible about where you collect things from. Generally speaking, if I'm filming mushrooms growing, I'll buy them as spores and I'll not collect them from outside. But because of today, we've kind of got a couple of little examples from outside of my neighbour's garden.
Oh, handy.
Yeah.
So when did you first start deciding to film plant life?
As long as I can remember, really. I've only really been experimenting with time-lapse me for the last couple of years, and it's taken quite a few to get them right.
And how does time-lapse work? Is there a different period of duration that they go over, or are they all pretty similar?
No, I mean, it entirely depends on what you're filming. You have to kind of do your research. So with a mushroom growing, it would generally take 3 weeks, so you take a photo every 9 minutes. If you're doing a time-lapse of a sunset, I mean, that only takes 20 minutes, so you'd want a photo every few seconds. So.
And do you have a video of you growing these mushrooms,
Yes.
like a time-lapse of them?
I think you've got one lined up for us.
Oh, well, let's have a look. Wow, that was amazing. It looked really incredible. So we've actually got the camera set up here. Is this how you would normally set things up?
Yeah, more or less. So the camera will be taking its photo every 9 seconds. We'll have it set up so that there's a watering system, so everything's growing on its own, and I don't have to tinker around with it too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
It kind of just does itself. Yeah, they're fairly straightforward.
So you said you do. You've got one like this that you've done inside, and the attack of the insects occurred.
Yeah.
Do you do any of them outside? What's it like? What would budding nature photographers need to do outside?
The great thing about time lapse is you need very little equipment to get started. It's like a very accessible thing for anyone to do. Basically, you just need a camera. You can do it manually, just pushing it yourself, or I mean, smartphones can do it themselves these times. Anything really, you have to research your subject first. So again, if you're doing something out in nature, you need to know what the weather's going to be like, what different variables are going to affect your film. But yeah, other than that, it's just down to experimentation.
And what are your next projects? What are you planning to move on to?
So the next project isn't going to be a time-lapse project. That's going to be modifying a camera so that we can see what animals that can see in ultraviolet, like how they view the world. And I'll be doing another time-lapse potentially with some of the animators next year.
Oh, wow. And how do you control that with the animals?
Well, for the ultraviolet film?
And they won't behave.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just about going out there and getting as much footage as possible and hoping for the best, really.
Yeah, I suppose when you're filming nature, especially animals outside, you never quite know what's going to happen. You know, but it's that shot, that one shot that you get, and it's perfect, and you couldn't have wished for anything more. But it takes the hours to get there, I guess.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of patience involved.
Brilliant. Well, I know what my next DIY project's going to be.
You're not going to start growing mushrooms in your closet?
I might do. Well, from driverless buses to sustainable housing to a jacket that tweets by rubbing the sleeves together, brilliant designers around the world are always thinking of different ways to make our lives on this planet a little bit better.
We recently visited the Design Museum in London in their brand new, beautiful space for designers and those wishing to better understand the designed world.
Let me tell you the story of Designs of the Year. So my name is Alice Black. I'm the co-director of the Design Museum, and I've been at the museum for 10 years now. The way in which Beasley Designs of the Year is organized as an exhibition is we invite nominations across 6 categories: architecture, fashion, product, transport, digital, and graphics. But every year, different themes emerge. The themes that are emerging are activism and really the social engagement of designers in today's issues. So, for example, you've got the Pussy Hat project. So it's a piece of design, it's a product, it's a hat, but actually it says something which is about protest, dissent, and saying this is not the way in which we want to be seen as women. I think for me, when we look back at 2017, we're going to see the 2 things emerge. First, addressing these major social issues, but also this movement of grassroots protests. People have decided no more, we don't want to be told what to think, we can think for ourselves and we can project our ideas. So I think these 2 trends are clearly expressed in the exhibition, but in the world around us. And that's what designers are responding to. The appeal for the young visitors is to see the creativity at play in the world of design. Sometimes you look at the world out there and you just hear negative stuff, bad news. But here, it's incredibly inspiring because this is how we as people have agency. In this exhibition, they're like in their 20s, and they're creating new things, and they're trying to change the world. Where else are you going to see that in a museum?
The Beasley Designs of the Year exhibit will be at the Design Museum until the 28th of January, so make sure you stop by.
Now, YouTube has redefined what we consider telly. New niche types of videos within its massive community continue to pop up every day.
One of these, which has since transcended its niche status, is the ASMR community.
ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Some of us call this the tingles.
Like when you hear a sound and you get goosebumps all over. I sometimes watch ASMR videos before I fall asleep. I find it soothing.
More like nightmare-inducing. So for this episode's Trapped in the Closet segment, we've invited students here at the NFTS to try out this new pop culture sensation.
I got a hangover, been trapped in the closet.
So much for joining me.
I mean, she is pretty cute, but
I mean,
there's some lonely guys out there. That's all I'm saying.
Who listens to this for 4 hours and 36 minutes and 7 seconds?
It's meant to be soothing, because it's not really soothing me.
It's interesting. I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
So I think what this is meant to be. You're meant to listen to this when you're falling asleep.
Ah,
See, this is meant to soothe you.
Okay, with you.
It's Weird Paul.
Did you say his name was Weird Paul?
Well, yeah, I was wondering if it was like, you know, when you... Never mind.
No, go on.
Numbers and they're like...
Oh, what, like Babe Station?
Yeah, that's it.
This guy, I wouldn't want to go to sleep in case he came from a bloody window.
Okay, so now I'm giving her ASMR. I also don't have nails. This doesn't work because I don't have nails. She had long nails in the video. Do you want to use my nails? This is gonna work.
It's almost sexually arousing
Yeah,
how
that's-
much you're stirring it.
Yeah, that's the erotica. So,
Oh yeah. Then you're gonna take the dough and you're gonna smear it on your face. Oh yeah. It's right. It's everywhere. How are you feeling right now?
Not relaxed at all.
Think it off. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. Are you sleeping yet?
No.
You sleeping yet?
That was strangely soothing. Hey, Kay. Catherine. Catherine, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right?
We'll be back after the commercial break.
Hello.
Happy Valentine's Day! Lucy?
That wasn't the card you meant to read.
What was the card I was meant to read?
I don't know. It was more formal. It was less...
Anatomical? I made it with my bum.
My mummy dived to the zoo one time. There was a caterpillar and played with my sister toys. So we turned round and round and round and then we get off. That'll be my birthday.
My father's first car.
The public library.
In my grandmother's bathroom. That's it. Almost!
education. We all start somewhere.
What are you doing?
Showing our audience the importance of sound.
Many of our favourite films owe their soundscapes to legendary sound designer Eddie Joseph.
What was that?
Bludger. Nasty little buggers. But you are a seeker. The only thing I want you to worry about is this. The golden snitch.
I like this ball.
Ah, you like it now. Just wait. It's wicked, fast, and damn near impossible to see.
What do I do with it?
You catch it. Before the other team's seeker. You catch this, the game is over. You catch this, Potter, and we win.
Not only did Eddie design the sounds of Quidditch, he was also the ears behind Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride,
United 93, Cold Mountain, Enemy at the Gates, Michael Collins. I mean, we could go on and on.
But instead of continuing to talk about Eddie as if he's not sitting right next to us, why don't we turn the cameras over to him? Hi, Eddie, thank you for joining us on our sofa.
Pleasure.
Hello.
Good to be
So,
here.
the Harry Potter scene that we've just seen,
Yeah.
what did that sound like before you got your hands on it?
Well, it had no sound.
Nothing.
Well, yes, the voices and possibly a little atmosphere. But, I mean, I spent, and I had a designer with me, maybe a month playing around with sounds for both the snitch and the bludger. And, I mean, when you think about the first of a series, we thought it'd be 7, but I think it was 8 in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The most iconic series of books other than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And we don't want to let the kids down, or indeed the adults who read the books to the kids. So it took forever to get what we felt was right.
Yeah.
But we played around. I mean, the bludger has got a voice in it. And it was my sound designer Martin Cantwell's voice, which he played around and going like that, really close into the microphone, and then playing around with it, distorting it, and so on. I can't really tell you how the snitch is going. That is a trade secret.
We could talk off air later, maybe.
Of course, that'd be delightful.
So when did you decide that you wanted to work with sound? Where did that come about?
Oh, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a pop star. And I wrote songs and failed completely. My father was in the film industry, and he said he'd never let any of his offspring get into the business because it was so precarious.
Yeah.
But eventually, after doing lots of other things, I persuaded him that that's what I wanted to do. But I didn't start in the editing side. I started on the production side. But you had to get into the union then, and it was a way in by going through the editing side, which I did. And by working with directors like Alan Parker for many years as an assistant editor, he offered me a film called Shoot the Moon as a sound editor. And of course I said yes. And that was it, really. And I thought, oh, I like this.
Carry on.
And I guess I was really, yeah, the rest is history. Yes,
So we've got a scene from Casino Royale, which I know is one of Jess's favourites.
Yeah, it is.
And mine.
So if we'll have a look at this, and then maybe you can talk us through it.
Of course. Love to.
say that's one of my favourite scenes from that film. My mum actually bought me a book on Casino Royale, and it was all about how it was shot visually and on all the behind-the-scenes bits. But you forget about the sound. We take it for granted that it should have good sound. But if we went to see a film of that calibre, and it had awful sound, you'd know. So what was that scene like when you first got hold of it?
It's the same, really. It would have been impossible for anyone to have recorded everything that was needed for until you try things out, you don't know what's needed. But we knew that it was going to be. It's like the whole sequence is about 11 minutes, and it's incredibly complex. It's using every element that is in sound on a film. You have Foley, you have ADR, dialogue, crowd. You have sound effects, sound design. Everything is used in that, utilised to its nth degree. And in that, I assembled a team and said, we have nothing to start with. You know, we have to go. So we have to record vehicles. We have to record gunshots, the gun handling. There's one shot where the guy throws the gun at Bond, and Bond catches it and throws it, and the guy hits the guy, he falls. We had to record the sound of that. Wow. But it's not real, but it's kind of real. You have to believe that it is real.
You just mentioned there, what is ADR and what is Foley? Just
ADR, automated dialogue replacement.
Okay.
We used to call it looping because the actors would redo their line of dialogue and there'd be a loop of film going round. So they'd get a rhythm and they would repeat the line and repeat the line and repeat the line till it was perfect. Then someone invented a system, a computerized system, where you could do it to numbers. And so we could actually do a whole scene, and there would be cue lines going through, or there'd be beeps in the ear of to give the rhythm that we used to have on a loop. Actors don't like it, we don't like it, but when you have a scene like that, I mean, you couldn't record Bond and the parkour guy up on the gantries. You just couldn't do it. So we would put in, to start with, I would do a bit or something like that, use a bit of my voice in there, and then we bring in Daniel to do his, and so on and so forth. So that's the way ADR is basically replacing bad dialogue.
And another technical term you mentioned, what's Foley?
Foley is footsteps, and it's not just footsteps, but it's all those. For instance, if we were having our tea at the table here, we'd have our cups and saucers, and just the sound of a cup being lifted off the saucer makes a tiny little noise. Now, you don't think about it, but that's what it does, make a noise. So we record that, and then we'll add let's say we're using our ADR, so we have got our voice. There's nothing else with that voice. There's not the sound of the saucer in the cup. So we need to put that back in. So that's the Foley, yes. So we're adding in layers, all the footsteps. I mean, you saw when they run up the cranes and everything. We're just we record it, and then we probably take out 75% of it because we don't want it to be too obvious, rhythmic, just a little bit here and there, and then you believe. It's making people believe.
So, as our final question, what would you recommend is the best way to see a film for sound? I mean, you know, you've got all different ways now. You can go to cinema, you can put your headphones in. What is the best way to get the most out of the hard work that
Well, I'll quickly tell you the worst way, and that's on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that is really, seriously, the best way is in the cinema. I love going to, like, IMAX. You know, and you've got speakers everywhere, a huge screen, you're in the chairs that tilt back, and I mean, it's a magical experience. And if you've got a good local cinema, or if you haven't, tell the manager that it doesn't sound good or look good, and maybe they'll just do something about it. But yeah, cinema's best.
Well, it's fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, we've got Christy Koish coming up, and he is a comedian from Leeds.
Featured all over the YouTube famous Third Leg Studios, a comedy production company based in North London.
Oh, hey, mate, have you had some of my peanut butter?
Oh, yeah, I had some earlier.
Right.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to just, buy a whole tub just for a little snack.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just prefer that you ask in future.
Oh, Oh, yeah, of course. No worries, man. Cool, man.
Cheers. Hey, have you seen my blue shirt?
Oh, yeah, all my stuff was in the wash cell. I just chucked it on. I didn't think it would be an issue.
It's not an issue. I just prefer it if you ask before taking my things.
Yeah, cool.
Someone's been making all these Amazon orders and... What's all this?
What? Mate, I needed to buy some stuff and I saw your card on the table. Look, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you've been acting really aggy recently. Is everything okay?
No, things aren't okay. You keep stealing from me.
You know what, man? You're obviously going through some of your own issues right now, okay? Best thing I can do is just keep my head down and stay out your way until you work through whatever it is you're going through. Okay, excuse me.
Christy is here at the NFTS, a short walk away, where we've sneaked one of our cameras to watch him perform a short set at the NFTS bar. Jess?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the NFTCS. Welcome, comedian Christy Coysh.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Fantastic to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad you're wearing a poppy. I'm wearing a poppy. I wasn't wearing a poppy at first, but then someone rushed on and gave me one because I needed a conscience. Guys, it's great to be here at NFTS. How are we all feeling? Fantastic. So I'm just going to do a bit of comedy now. That's okay. I've never actually been on TV before, so this is a first for me. Never been in makeup. That's a first, which was great. I went into makeup with a lovely woman called Jill, who assured me that she would make me look like John Hamm, and I think we can all agree she's done a piece of shit job. In all honesty, she has literally screwed the pooch on that one. Jill, if you're listening, you need to look for another profession because really it's not working out. I still look gross. So, yeah. We had Maggie Cassidy on, guys. Maggie Cassidy. Honestly, they're really emotional music that they make. I don't think there was one dry vagina in the whole place. They were great. It's not like one laugh from one guy. Yeah. It's great. I mean, not being crude, they're just very good-looking humans. It's hard to follow when you look like this. And we had a live demonstration of some time-lapse. And, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but a time-lapse takes a long time, right? So, I mean, a live demonstration of a time-lapse is kind of just you in a studio showing a video. It's kind of like a Neil Buchanan of well, here's one I made earlier. So, I mean, you just come, because that's kind of like if I was an acrobat, I went on Jonathan Ross and they were like, are you going to do a few flips? And I was like, well, I can show you this video of a flip I did that you might enjoy. But guys, I have a hidden agenda. I've always wanted to be a TV personality, so I was thinking that maybe I could do a few interviews and try get it in my show reel, and maybe I could interview one of you. Maybe, yeah? So I'm just going to choose someone from the audience. You. Come on. Okay, great. So what's your name?
Stephanie.
Okay, your name is Stephanie, and what do you do?
Production management.
Okay, production management, Stephanie. Hey, we're here with Stephanie now, who does production management. Stephanie, what's your production management doing?
A lot of Excel.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Someone's doing this at me, and I don't think I'm a very good interviewer, but I've got it for my show reel. Back to you in the studio. We'll see you later. Bye!
What a great guy. He's so funny. Well, anywho, we're nearly at the end of our show.
Thank you for watching, and meet us back here on Monday, 5 o'clock, live in our flat here at the NFTS.
We'll be chatting with Georgie Fuller and Danny Jackson from the sketch comedy group Cramps and beatboxer D Low, with a musical guest D Mob Happy.
So, to finish us off, it's Maggie Cassidy guiding us with another one of their brand new singles, Guide Me. See you on Monday.
Times the weight of your lives drives me to the close my eyes when it comes to night. I shield my disguise. Who will save me this time? Angel guide me, 'cause the ghost inside of me has my feet shaking on the edge. Rocks will give way under me. Rocks will retreat, die in the arms, fight, fight and feed, live in the hearts of all love. These are the choices life is to want to start out of the new moon in the lead of a sunrise. Soon to my bones have been reduced. Angel guide me, 'cause the ghost inside of me has my feet shaking on the edge. Rocks will give way under this We are the only angels. We are the only angels. We are the only angels. So I feel when I feel when I feel when it's all down. We are the only. We're the only. We are the only angels. We are the only angels. We are the only angels. So I feel when the soul's in me. So angels guide me.